It is 6:00 p.m. Today is Tuesday, August 22nd, 2023. This is the Bluff Town Council regular meeting. Roll call.
Linda Sosa.
Jim Sayers.
Luanne Hook.
Brant Murray.
Ann Leppanen.
Erin Nelson, serving as town manager.
Before we move into approval of the minutes, I want to make a couple quick comments. Watching the weather, as it is right now, we could end up being in another situation where we lose power. If we lose power, I'm going to count 10 minutes. If we don't get it back, we're done. We're not going to go on, try to all log in on phones or do anything. We're just done. So wait that 10 minutes and then we'll be finished and pick it up at a later date. Then for anyone listening, we will, after the public comment, go into a closed executive session. I would hope that we would not be in it longer than half an hour, but I can't guarantee anything. It could be less, it could be more. And then we'll pick up with the regular meeting. So with that in mind, the first item is approval of the Bluff Town Council work session minutes of August 8th, 2023. Has everyone read them? Are there changes, modifications?
Motion to approve.
Second, Mayor.
Any discussion? Then all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? It's unanimous. Approval of the Bluff Town Council public hearing minutes of August 8th, 2023. Same question. Has everybody received them? Have you read them? And are there any changes or modifications?
Motion to approve.
Second again.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? It's unanimous. Approval of Bluff Town Council regular meeting minutes of August 8th, 2023. Has everybody received them? Have you read them? And are there any changes?
Motion to approve.
One more time for me. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? It's unanimous. Then the last one is approval of the Bluff Town Council public hearing minutes of August 15th, 2023. Has everybody received them and read them? Are there
Just one typo that normally I don't mention, but on Bruce Baird, welcome to Bruce Baird, it's Eric and Kim, and it's Eric and Elizabeth or something. Kim is his middle name. So just check that name, I think, since it's at the top of our minutes.
And that's on the Acton?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so one of the things that I would like to do is I would like to ask to defer this approval to the next meeting, which would be September 5th. And the reason is I'd really like to go back and listen a little more carefully to the comments. This is a fairly important public hearing, and Linda did a great job of capturing, but I want to be sure that we are just like right on the line of being perfectly accurate. And sometimes I have a memory that's a little different than someone else's. So Linda thinks she did a great job and a lot of really good speakers. But if no one minds, I'd like to defer this voting on the approval until I can listen to the audio.
Yeah, and that's
Could
why
I make a motion to that effect?
One at a time. I don't think so. I think we can just defer it. But thanks, Jim. Lou?
Yeah, I was just going to say it's a good time to remind everybody that this is the written minutes, but the verbal, the audio is always on YouTube or at least on Public Notice website. So that's our actual backup.
Right. And every once in a while, I have something written down that isn't correct. And before I make a motion to change anything, I'd like to be sure that my memory is accurate. So this will be approval of the Bluff Town Council public hearing minutes for August 15 will be deferred to the 5th of
I'll
September.
second that if you need a second, Mayor.
Nope, we don't need a motion. We're good. We're just deferring. Public comment, there will be a 3-minute time limit for each person wishing to make a public comment. If you exceed the 3-minute time limit without permission, the meeting controller will mute you. I'm assuming, Erin, that the sign was up telling people to sign up.
It was not, unfortunately, so my apologies.
Okay. Nope, that's okay. We've got a lot going on. We just go back to the way we've been doing it. Does anyone in the audience, online, or, well, there's no one here but me and Erin in the other room. So anyone online wish to make a public comment? And if so, will you signal us so we know? We'll wait a minute or so here for folks. While we're waiting for people, I'd like to thank everyone for the participation in the public hearings that we had. We had 2 in the last 2 weeks. So thank you, everyone who's made a public comment or sent in a written comment. Might as well just say written comments will close off on the 29th, I believe. Is that right? August 29th at 5 o'clock. Anyone with a public comment? Okay, so how this works is we will entertain a motion to go into a closed session.
So made.
I'll second that.
And then after we take the vote, if we go into a closed session, the council will be logging off of this and then go into a different session for the closed one. Make sure you all log off. All in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? It's unanimous. It is 6:07 and we're going into a closed session. We're
All
adjourned
right.
for the moment.
Bye-bye.
Hello?
Well, I guess we're waiting on Ann. Is that correct?
Yeah, it looks like.
Yes, sir.
Craig, are you there?
He's logged on, so it's probably just still recording from the initial start.
Erin, is it going to make any difference that Debbie Westfall is on twice? Has got
Nope, it shouldn't.
okay. You're muted, Ann.
I'm intentionally muted, Jim, because I'm trying to set up the recorder.
Okay.
So I just got it started. It is 7:02 p.m. We are back in the regular meeting. We should have a motion to open this meeting.
So made.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, and I think we've got everybody. So the first, under unfinished business, is a request by the Playground Committee to take the next steps in a playground at the Cooperative Cultural Center. And I don't know if Dan Meyer is on the phone or not, or any member of the Playground Committee. It doesn't look like it. So let me just give a 2-second synopsis here. Dan and Jocelyn Myers have asked the council to go back to the DRC and back to UDB, Utah Denebakea, to consider looking at the vacant playground area at the Cooperative Cultural Center to put in a nice new playground. The question I had was, is the school, the Bluff Elementary School playground, not usable, or isn't it open? But the answer to that is it is open, it's usable. I think that the sentiment of the parents of the younger kids would like to have a playground on our own ground. That being said, there is no money in the budget this year allocated for that. And given everything we have going on, I deliberately did not talk about putting money into it, but they're interested in trying to write some grants. To me, that would make way more sense than us trying to look at purchasing playground equipment at this moment. So thoughts from anybody? So
I'll be glad to talk when you want there.
yeah, go ahead, Brant.
It does seem premature to go ahead and put one in right now with all the site plan work that's kind of building. So there's a lot of contemplation about use of the building, and we may move some mobile units. So to me, I would say let's wait a year and try to get a layout that, maybe it's better to have that playground over here off the highway. That's why those barricades are there, so don't run over kids in that playground. So I just think it's premature to put it on site without a comprehensive plan.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I agree with Brant.
And as much as I would like to see a playground active and ready to go, I agree that could just end up being in the way. Could be a better spot for it, and so on.
So it seems to me it's going ahead and looking out there and seeing what they can find for capital grants is a good idea. but it's not something that is going to rise to the priority for us right now. Okay, so we have an echo. If everybody that's listening can mute their microphone, thank you. So,
If they go ahead with grants, they have to have a location where they're going to be putting what they're getting the money for.
right, but they can explore looking at grants and seeing what's out there. That's part of the problem that we have with the outdoor rec from the state of Utah. Like even exploring what you can get and what you can use it for. And I just think that there's a lot of delving into before they'd even be ready to do anything. But certainly, I think we're all in agreement we're not in a position to do it at the CCC right now.
Okay, sorry, I think I misunderstood. So.
No, that's okay. It's been a long day, Lou. I'm probably rambling. All right, the next is that Jim Hook has been requesting that we vote on his request to improve 6 West. And let me just get to that. So over the course of the last year, there have been some emails from Jim Hook about 6 West. And I'm just going to read what was the most recent one, which was to Chris McEnany on October 10th, 2022. They had been going back and forth. I don't know if it was on the phone or by email, but about 6 West. We have 2 issues to be discussed and settled with the town in West Bluff, but we want to deal with just the first at this time, namely the extension of West 6th Alley south to our property line, as stated in my letter to the town. I suggest you use the Google Earth app to see the area and not Google Maps, which shows West 4th south as a street, but which is actually the alley south of the Cottonwood addition. Most of that alley has been given to the adjacent property owners by San Juan County. Please note in the maps and plats I have attached that Hook property in West Bluff is made up of 3 separate lots. When we sell the 2, quote, residentially zoned, end quote, house and barn parcels, there would be no access to our 18-plus acre, quote, agriculturally zoned, end quote, parcel on the terrace and floodplain without access from the 6 West alley. The extension of the alley would provide access to Hook land and incidentally allow us to grant an easement for access to Guyman Ranch and the River Trail easement. You'll also note that the original plat of Cottonwood Addition signed by the Perkins family states, quote, we do dedicate and relinquish to the public for public use all streets and avenues and alleys, end quote. The town council also passed a resolution to protect and keep alleys for public use. The town of Bluff graded and added gravel surface to the section of the alley last fall. And then assigned Jim and Luanne Hook recapture lodge. So I'm assuming that that request is what Mr. Hook is asking us to consider. Did everybody get a copy of that in their packet?
Yeah.
Discussion?
Can I just say a couple things? We didn't get the one to McEnany. We got the one dated September 19th, 2022 to town council asking for that to look at it. And then what I would like to do is declare a conflict of interest. In a small town, you wear a lot of hats. It is property that we would like some access to. And so I got that conflict of interest, but I'm also on the road department and I'm also on town council trying to make good use of our roads and access to other properties and whatnot. So I will stay in the conversation, but I will abstain from voting.
So any comments by the council or any thoughts?
Yeah, this is a really, really difficult situation with the alleys on that west side in that 1954 subdivision that was created. And when I look at this, I see 20 feet on that side, but 20 feet is. So, what's your idea, Mayor? You put it on the agenda. Talk to us about what you're thinking.
Well, I put it on, oh, hold on, I put it on the agenda because I believe there've been at least 3 public comments by Jim Hook asking us to consider it and to not, to continue to delay. So I wanted to move some of these things that have been lingering. The request is to, let me just get the language here. The request is to grade and develop or work on property that the town owns. As I'm opposed to any private individual being given permission to extend roads or work on alleys, whatever you want to call it. That to me opens the door to a lot of requests by folks to extend the road that they're on at the dead end into something else, to grade. We had a person try private grading last year, which I stopped because they were increasing the width of the road and pushing the gravel off. Again, it's the town's asset. It's not something that the public should be maintaining individually. And so I'm opposed to just not granting requests like this. So Brant, Linda?
I know that Jim would do a really good job. I am with you. If we allow one person to do this, we have to let everybody, we have to treat everyone the same. And then it gets really complicated because certain places have neighbors. I agree with the mayor.
So and Jim would be here. He wasn't able to. He's still quite sick, but he would like this, push forward. He didn't want it tabled till he could be here. But if you've been on site, he and I both offered on site visits to the end of that alley. It's 20 feet wide and it's 30 feet that needs extended. There was a gifted storm drain access there that goes right through our property and drops down. So if the town wants to finish that off, that's fine. But as I say, I'm on the road department. The road department doesn't have a lot of money. This was offered to do it with a contractor. He's not going to do it himself, but a contractor would do it and protect that storm easement and finish off the alley at no expense to the town. So if it's on town property and it's an alley and we have a resolution to keep alleys open and streets open, then that seems like not a very good argument for not doing it. You're muted.
Mayor.
Go ahead, Brant.
I met with several of the people over there, a few months back, and discussed the situation. And Jim and I rode out and looked at the easement lots, and we've tried to be proactive in that neighborhood. But it's become apparent to me that each individual landowner should, if he wants his alley or his portion of the alley, rather than try to tie the town up and do a complex process with no agreement. It seems to me the right thing to do is have each individual person approach the town and have that set of rules about how to approach the town. I'll stop there, but it's a tough situation over there because, you got roads that are not in the right place or alleys not in the right place. And so my thought would be to survey survey the situation and just see what the survey matches up to the plat, and then try to make a decision rather than do something tonight.
I think that's a good idea, but what I might say is that he's not asking for the alley. He's just asking that either the town finish the 30 feet or allow him to finish the 30 feet. So realize this is 600 square feet of road. He doesn't want to build 2 miles. It's 600 square feet. It's 20 feet wide and 30 feet long that has been left just dangling. The neighbors in this case, Linda Sosa mentioned neighbors, the neighbors hope that it's a street. We would only do 20 feet and they would prefer that it be 80 feet.
You know,
So-
the other factor involved in that is trying to get emergency rescue equipment and fire stuff back into that grasslands back down on that bench. And so for me, I'm really protective of that road because I don't see how to get equipment back down there fast without that road.
Well, it would be a private driveway and that would let somebody come down for fire protection. Right now, they can't get there without going off through the river bottom through our other piece of property.
And that's why it ought to come off of a road in my mind.
And it is, it's an alley. It's platted as an alley, and whether it gets taken and becomes town property to become an 80-foot street, that's a whole different discussion. But right now he just wants to fix that 20-foot so that he can get on down. And like I say, as a roads department and as property owner and as trying to get access to people that don't have access off of these alleys because they're not finished, it seems to me like the thing to do for the town of Bluff to provide to the end of an alley so that private property can have access to their lands.
And we definitely have a access problem back in those neighborhoods. So that is a salient point.
And I think that that's the other point, Brant, is that there are several properties that are so-called landlocked that private property owners can't get to because there's no access. I'm not a believer that we should be doing what's requested and having private property owners extend or work on or maintain public property. So, and there's obviously there's dispute among the neighbors back there as to who's doing what. I just am not thinking that this is a dispute that the town needs to jump into. Anybody else, or are there any motions? I know we've got a lot to get through tonight.
I think that Brant's idea of getting it surveyed would be a step forward with the town without putting another stall on this discussion that's been in the works for some time. I think everybody involved would like to know.
I think it's going to end up being some sort of compromise in my mind. And I don't know exactly how that's going to be, but I think we need pins on the ground to be able to look at it empirically and just kind of see where we are.
I am so opposed to using public funds to pay for private surveys, which is what we would be doing, is to quiet title as to who's doing what on what property where. I'm going to just call it. I make a motion that we deny the request that Jim Hook has made to maintain or work on this road. Alley, whatever.
Sorry. I second it.
Road and public be used on public roads for the survey.
Any more discussion?
I would just like to say that what I understood Brant to suggest is that the town survey the town's alley and the town's street. The pins are in there that the private people have put in.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye.
I'm
I
Opposed?
abstain.
Okay.
I vote no.
So we have 2 abstaining. And Brant, what was your vote?
No.
No.
Yeah, no. I want a survey.
So now I'm in a quandary. We have 2 abstentions. We have 2 ayes and 1 no. So
The motion carries, right?
I believe so.
I think so.
Okay. I just want to be sure that we're all on the same page as to the result.
So what was the result?
Deny. It was 2
So-
in favor of the motion to deny it, 1 against denying it, and 2 abstentions. Okay, then we're going to move to the next item, which is just Number 4, discuss, evaluate, and vote to award the bid for the Bluff Community Center renovation project. I'm going to let Erin take this one.
All right, so the Bluff Community Center renovation project went out to bid. Bid packets were due on Friday, August 18th. 2 were submitted. You should have received both of those in your agenda packet. I happy to answer any questions about what was submitted to the best of my ability. Based on what we were asking for in the bid, it needed to include labor and materials. It was very important that we understood how much this project is going to cost. And therefore, I would have to say that the bid submitted by Little Water Construction is not a valid bid, unfortunately. And therefore, the second bid submitted by Weldon Builders totaled $89,050. That includes materials and labor. He's quoted at 6 weeks of work, as well as starting work on or around October 20th of this year. That build from Weldon Builders did address the project scope line by line, and has dollar amounts associated with everything that we had in the bid packet, and it matched up line by line. Questions from council?
Questions? Anyone on that, on the bids that we are looking at? The one that Erin says doesn't comply with what we requested, and then the one that by Weldon Builders that does.
How much was the Little Water Construction? What did they bid?
They bid $5,000 a week in labor only. I spoke with both of these bidders. They both came to the community center to look over the project, as was allowed by the bid. And I did explain in depth that that we needed estimates on materials, but the bid from Little Water is $5,000 a week, no equipment, no tax, labor only. It also states all equipment provided, all waste disposal by Little Water, no tax, labor only. So I'm reading that as the town would supply all the equipment.
Yeah, well, I don't know that what to do here, but I think that the Weldon bid is exorbitant, to say the least. That's $8.90 a square foot for removal of a hanging ceiling.
No, this is the Bluff Community Center remodel.
Oh, excuse me, I'm wrong then.
No, sorry.
I still think it's, well. Okay.
Here's what I think. I think that we have a complying bid, and I'm going to make a motion that we accept the Weldon bid.
So is there a second to the motion? I want to have a point of discussion here.
I'll second it for discussion.
Thank you, Lou. So Erin and I have gone over the bid from Weldon Building quite a few times individually and together. And in the bid, there's roughly $14,000 in the wainscoting for the bathrooms. So there are 2 bathrooms in the senior center, 2 in the community center office area. And so we've talked about if we want to provisionally approve that bid, and then for Erin and myself to sit down with the builder and maybe try to get some of these costs a little lower. Like the tiling we could do, the wall tiling we could do later, but some of these things are kind of all tied together, so you don't want to piecemeal every single job. But I think there is a way to lower it a little bit, or at least have the discussion to lower it. And so I would like to amend Brant's motion to say provisional approval, and then come back to the council with maybe perhaps pulling a couple of these things out for right now to get it more in line with what we budgeted. We do have the funds to be able to cover it, but we'd have to amend the budget to do that. So
I think that sounds good. I'll have my motion amended, Mayor.
is there a second to the amendment?
I second it.
I'll second that.
So we've got the amended motion and second. All in favor? Any more discussion, or are we ready to vote?
My comment really is that once the bid is out and the bid comes in, it's hard to go back and change it after the fact. I will support you trying that again, but it's not the best.
No, and that's why I'm saying it's provisional, and that we do have the funds to be able to cover the whole thing as it is. We have money in the PTIF account. So my biggest concern, honestly, is we have the ceiling demolition that we'll talk about next. And then we have this pending $1 million grant with the EPA. And I'd like to see us get this project done, get the senior center repairs done, get the ceiling demolition done before we are faced with any possible other construction. So if we could just, say we're going to accept the bid, work with it, and then come back if we need to buffer it with some money from the PTIF.
I think that's a great idea, and I'll ask a question to call for a vote.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Right.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay.
Could I just say the other bid was great if we had somebody on, a building person on staff that could just needed labor, and they were going to pick all the tile, they were going to pick all the stuff, they were going to deliver everything, provide all the tools. But we don't have that, and so that other bid just isn't very considerable, unfortunately.
Well, so why don't we move into number 5, which is the discussion on the ceiling demolition. And again, anyone in the audience, if you can mute, I'm not sure where the squeak.
It's from, I think it's coming from Brant, usually.
It probably is. Yes, I think I'm a prime offender, and I'll try to keep it on mute.
Thanks, Brant. So I had asked Erin to rerun the ceiling demolition bid because I think we really want to get this done and moving. AmeriCorps, we won't know about for at least another month, whether they'll be coming in January or February, if at all. We don't know that they could do the work, but we'd really like to get the demolition done. And I think that there are several, we've heard of at least one interested person. We know that the person who submitted Little Water submitting the bid where materials were an issue might be interested in refining and working on a bid for this. There might be other people. So we'll have it open for a week. Erin, did we decide the 1st of September?
Yeah, I have it as the 1st of September at 5 p.m. So that's next Friday. And again, I think it's important to note that this has already gone out to bid. We do have an updated project scope, which clearly identifies the ceiling area to be removed, which is less, as everyone remembered. That was kind of the sticking point on the other bid that was received that did not work out. And so Ann was able to measure, and so we have a very specific amount of material to remove. And that information can be found on the website. And so I think, the hope would be this would be much more straightforward, and I would certainly encourage anyone, this is a good one for Little Water to maybe look at in terms of the project scope without those materials.
Brant, did you have a question?
No, ma'am, just a comment. Little Water Construction's Gabe Begay, and he and I have worked together doing some projects, and I helped him a little bit with his application since he doesn't read and write really well. But so I just want to kind of have that out there of our relationship. I think everybody in town knows that if you need to find Gabe, you can find him around the neighborhood some. So just public FYI, I just want everybody to know that I have no conflict other than trying to lift the economic opportunities for all our people that live in our neighbors.
Thanks for that. So we'll come back to that once we see what we get, but it is more straightforward. It's demolition, dumpster, adequate protection. So hopefully we can wrap that up too. Number 6, update on October 14, 2023 annular solar eclipse committee. Erin, are there any updates folks need to know about at this point?
I think the biggest thing we just really need to start hammering home. We are definitely calling out for volunteers. So that entire week leading up to the eclipse, including Saturday, October 14th, as well as probably a couple days after, we will need volunteers. So you can contact me directly. You can contact any of the council members, but we want to have a list started. Volunteers are really important. And then the Solar Eclipse Committee is meeting again on Monday, August 28th. And after that time, we should have some really good materials available on the website, available. We'll probably have like some flyers and everything for residents as well as visitors. So please, this is just kind of the PSA that we're getting everything solidified as much as possible. We'll have a couple more requests for the council in terms of what we're looking to purchase, but the team has worked really, really, really hard. And now the biggest thing is just the public needs to know about it. And it would be wonderful to have a really strong volunteer base to help us with this during the week of.
Yeah, we will really need some volunteers. And Brant, go ahead and make your comment while I try to think about what I was going to say.
I don't have any other comments, Mayor. I beeped, but I didn't do it myself. I don't know what happened.
There was something that I thought we should say, but of course I can't remember what it is. I think food vendors. We have a call out for craft people who, make jewelry, the nice basic things that you see when you go to eclipses. But the big thing that we really have to push are the food trucks. We've had zero applicants. So if you know a food truck, somebody who'd be interested in selling food. The DRC, the Design Review Committee, talked, and this is Jim's idea. Maybe we could use the commercial kitchen the kitchen at the CCC at the Cooperative Cultural Center if somebody's interested in pushing some food from there and needs a prep area. But we've got to be innovative. I mean, we've got to be. So keep it in mind, if you go to a food truck, ask them if they'd like Bluff and to get here 2 days early, because otherwise they won't be able to get through the construction or the cars.
But don't you mean the CC, which CCC, the BCC or the CC, the fire kitchen where we've got a commercial license for it and we have certificate of occupancy and so on?
Yeah, no, I'm going to check with our insurer about being able to use the old school, the cultural center, and see if we can use it for day use for a couple of days.
It wouldn't be used for the concept is it wouldn't be used to bring people into the multi-use room or anything like that, but just to prepare food and maybe have a table and a setup outside that was advertised on the highway. I think it would do very, very well. The fact is that kitchen can crank out an enormous amount of food in not very much time with the right people working in it. And so it might come in handy to somebody who really wants to do a big stew thing or whatever. That I've seen it happen. I mean, that is a good kitchen for a lot of things. So if you know anybody, let them know.
All right, then number 7, discuss and vote on Bears Ears Partnership's request to hold a stargazing and educational event at either the Bluff Community Center or the Cooperative Cultural Center. Erin and I talked with Sarah Burack, and I think Erin and Sarah's idea was best, that if we vote to have Bears Ears Partnership use something, I think the Cooperative Cultural Center yard is better just because it has some asphalt. And Erin pointed out it has less holes in the driveway area. It's going to be dark. We don't want people falling. Sarah said that they'll do the red lights and make sure that things are kind of steered so that we don't have any injuries. So if we're inclined to say yes, and then Bears Ears Partnership can get their stuff moving for that night. That would be that Friday night, the 13th of October.
I'm inclined to do that, and I'll make a motion.
Second.
Any further discussion? And this would be Brant for the CCC, the Cooperative Cultural Center. Oh,
Yes, ma'am. With kitchen prep stuff, like Jim pointed out.
okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Right.
Abstain.
Anyone opposed? 4-0. Want to abstain. All right, number 8 is on the agenda at Jim Hook, our airport manager's request, and it is to discuss and vote on closing the Bluff Airport to recreational traffic on October 13th. I put in 5 a.m., but I couldn't remember, Erin, what the time was that you had proposed, through October 15th, 2013 at 5 a.m. Do you recall the time you proposed?
I think I was looking at 48 hours of closure for recreational aviation traffic. So I think it was 5 a.m. to 5 a.m. as well.
Part of what Jim wanted to include on this part of the meeting was just the background for those of you who haven't been involved. There's a group of ultralights that come to the airport every year, and they camp by their ultralights, which is okay. That's the only time you can camp there is if you're camping by your airplane. So they were due to camp there and be there, and he said, not that weekend. We can't have any camping because of the sentiment of the organizers to protect the town and have that available to the sheriff's office and UHP. So they went to the FAA and came back around and were upset about that notion. So that's what brought us to this point of closing it. FAA, it's actually the Utah Aeronautical Association. They're the ones that have approved this sort of thing to go ahead and issue a NOTAM. There are also people that own the hangars out there that are planning to fly in for this event. It's a small airport. The shorter the amount of time needed, probably the better. It seems like it should be closed off somewhere between the cattle guard that is fencing the whole airport and up at the top where there's a right-hand turn where you can turn around vehicles and you can go off to BLM lands, because we can't close off that whole BLM section. But anyway, that's the history of it to this point.
Yeah, and
Motion to approve. Oh, excuse me. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Motion to approve closing the airport from the October 13th 5 a.m. to October 15th 5 a.m.
Second.
Any further discussion?
I'm wondering if it needs to be closed that whole entire day ahead of time.
Well, whatever was requested, I'll just amend my motion to include whatever the airport manager deems is important within a 3-day window there around the 14th.
Okay, so we have a little problem with that because we had a meeting with all the players that be on this when the complaint was made to the FAA. And what the motion was for the 48 hours to recreational was what was permissible from the other powers that we don't have any control over. So I think it needs to be that, and it needs to be the 48 hours. And then if we need to fine tune it while we're going, we can go back to the people who really have more control and with Jim Hook's recommendations. But I'd
I'll
like
let
to
my
see-
original motion stand then. Excuse me, Mayor.
No, that's okay. There's been a lot of side talking on this issue. So all in favor, say aye. Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
So
And-
just to be clear, then it's 5 a.m. on October 13th, which is Friday.
Correct.
Close all day Friday through that night and then through the next night. So it will reopen Sunday at 5 a.m.
Yes. And an aside to that is after we had our big discussion with Utah Aeronautics and fill in the blank, everybody else, Tammy Gallegos came to us because Utah Highway Patrol wants to put the helicopter there. So that factored into all of this. So we can fine tune things if we need to. And we were talking about with the road closures, Lou, and the solar committees, we'll be bringing that back to the council for decision making. Okay, number 9, reminder to clean around ditches of new growth and bushes due to the hurricane in Southern California and recent Bluff moisture. That's Brant's. Brant, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I was really worried about that moisture from that hurricane inundating us today and tomorrow, but it went north. But in my ditch across the street, there's a couple of trees growing. I'm going to trim them, and I thought if everybody kind of walked out and did a little ditch maintenance this time of year, it'd be great. And then we can kind of inspect it in a week or so and make sure that we're ready for monsoon.
Yeah, I'll add to that if somebody feels like getting rid of a few goat heads as they're coming up like crazy right now. That would not go amiss
Right.
for our four-legged and our two-wheeled friends.
All right, then number 10 is a review of the Bureau of Land Management's Cactus Park Fuels Treatment Meeting invitation. This is something we routinely get as an invitation to talk about certain areas that the BLM is working on. And we have a member that represents us that goes to these when necessary, and that's Britt Hornsby. So I've sent that on to him. I feel no need to get involved in it myself. Does anybody want to jump in and attend a meeting, or are you comfortable having Britt Hornsby continue to monitor what he needs to for us?
Go Britt.
I'm right with you on that one. All right, then number 11, the financial report and status of the audit. Linda.
Ann and I are still working on the audit. This is, I think, week number 3 with Larson and Company. And so last Friday, we got another request. So we've gotten requests for a lot of different things that I've mentioned already, random checks, how we do things, who is in charge of what things. So our latest request was to send copies of our newest grants. So they want the whole copy. That was the food pantry, even though it's a pass-through grant, the capital cultural grant. They wanted the paperwork for the San Juan Transportation Matching Funds documentation. They also, for a couple of those things, especially the CCC, they wanted a revenue and expense report for things. So Basically, they're really specific and detailed about what they want. And it took, Ann had a lot of those things, and I had the financial things. So we got them together. It took a little while. For one of them, we actually had to find minutes that supported what we did. And so, just to FYI, any kind of grants and things we do in the future, we have to be really careful to keep all documentation and follow what we're supposed to follow. Now, I sent out the financial report of what our bills are, and are there any questions, or can someone approve paying them?
I'll make a motion to approve them as presented.
Second.
Any questions about the financial report or the bill payment? All right, if there's none, I will have a comment after that. So all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
So just a heads up on the audit, it's going great. Things are, have been sporadic. They haven't been all at once in 1 week. They've kind of trickled in every few days. But PaveRight has raised its ugly head. And so we put a little bit of time into getting the documentation on the PaveRight process. So you might be listening for that in our audit. With that in mind, are there any others?
I have another.
Lou?
Going back to, let's see. Item number 3, the 6th West, as I said at the beginning, that I wear many hats. One of them is the road department. One of them is representing people with locked lands. I did not vote. In my introduction and my conflict of interest declaration, I said that I might abstain, but I did not have the chance to vote or to abstain. So I'd like to revisit that vote, please.
I think you're muted.
I could be mistaken, but I thought you said in the beginning that you would be abstaining.
I said when I introduced the concept that I may abstain, but at the time of the vote, I was not given the chance to abstain or to vote. And I said I wore many hats. It's a small town. There are several issues involved here, and I did not vote or abstain, and I was confused at the minute. That's why I asked you, wait, what was the outcome? So I would like to revisit that.
We can revisit. So the motion was to deny the request by Jim Hook to work on 6 West. So it had first a motion and a second, and then let's go back and do the vote again. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
So it's
Aye, I'm changing my vote from abstention. I was under the, I too believed that Luanne had abstained. But since we're revisiting the vote, I am voting aye also.
Anyone opposed?
No.
No,
So there are 2 noes, 3 ayes. The motion carries. It is 7:49. Anybody have any others, or are we ready to adjourn?
Thank you for the audit work. Motion to adjourn.
we also didn't have planning and zoning meeting happened in between, so probably ought to add that to the next agenda. It was mostly just working on ordinances. There was nothing critical, but that didn't make the agenda.
Okay, so this is a good time for me to point it out. I try to maintain notes throughout the week during the meeting that we have, and then the following week or 2 weeks to get everything on the agenda. If everyone could just take the time when the draft comes out and see if you have something on there that you need to add. I try to catch it, Lou.
Oh, it's fine. It's
You
fine.
know.
I'm just saying we missed it, so we just need to add it to the next one.
All right, then we, all in favor, say aye to adjourning.
All right.
I,
Aye.
Thanks for all the hard work.
Anyone opposed? All right.